If your ADHD or neurodivergent child falls apart the second you leave the room, you are not alone, and it happens more often than you think, and you are not doing something wrong. They actually need you to stay closer than you think, especially when it's time for them to focus, to get ready, to stay on task, to start a new task. So today I want to talk to you about body doubling and supervision and why it's so important, why it works, and how to use it without burning yourself out. Let's go. All right, so this comes up all the time when we're raising kids with ADHD or ADHD type behaviors. I call it the ADHD brain. And this is about body doubling and supervision. These sometimes go hand in hand, and a lot of times we see them differently. But these kids, they don't seem like they can function unless somebody is right next to them. And actually, that's kind of true, but then sometimes it can feel like if you get too close or you're hovering too much, they are going to have an explosion or shut down. That's also true. So, gosh, I mean, what do we do, right? So we're going to unpack what's going on and kind of find that sweet spot between support and independence. So what is body doubling? So this is I think a newer term. For over 12 years in the programs that I help parents with, we have encouraged parents to do what we call the 3-foot rule. And that's basically, it's keeping your child close to you. It's being there and being present. It doesn't mean doing everything for them. It's a calm, non-intrusive way to kind of be there, but without doing it for them, because that's not what we want to do as the child. Will they try to do something that's really hard? You're not going to do the task for them, or even actually with them sometimes, but you're going to just be there. And it's used by a lot of adults also that have ADHD. You may not know this, but you might have heard somebody say, well, I can't clean my kitchen unless somebody's there, talking to me while I'm doing it. Or I finally got my taxes done because my sister sat next to me and while I worked. So why does it work? So crazy, right? Because presence is regulating. And this is why you have to really practice that calm while you're there. It's not, that's why if you're trying to do it for them, if you're over instructing, over explaining, trying to make them do something, trying to make them feel a certain way to do it, your calm nervous system isn't present, and so it's not going to help. But your calm nervous system is going to help to regulate theirs, and it helps the brain to kind of shift into action mode instead of just avoiding or melting down. So you're kind of like their external scaffolding, if you can picture that. So ADHD brains and supervision, what's that about? So ADHD brains often struggle with executive functioning. I've talked about that a lot, and I have tons more to say about it. So you just need to ask me and get some help on what I mean by that and what it is. But the executive functioning is kind of like the CEO part of the brain. It includes the planning, it includes starting tasks, it includes completing tasks, managing time, staying organized, and remembering, what you were doing 30 seconds ago. All of that is part of executive functioning, and it's all the stuff that can make us really frustrated with our kids, right? Because then maybe even with ourselves. And so without support, these kids will often kind of wander off in the middle of a task. They will, start 6 projects and finish none of them. They'll get overwhelmed by simple routines. They get stuck doing something they like, but then they forget about everything else. And so when you're nearby and you're kind of offering that gentle supervision, it helps to, it's like externalizing the executive functioning. You're there, you may be reminding, you may be guiding, but you're helping them to kind of course correct before they crash. So because they're ADHD brain, it's kind of like a toddler brain. And you wouldn't just, you wouldn't give your toddler a list of things to do and then expect them to do it. And I'm not saying that they're not smart or that they're, immature in all ways, but their executive functioning, for whatever reason, it can be because of ADHD, it can be because of other neurodiversity. It's kind of like a toddler brain, And so it needs some external support to do that. And a lot of times we can get to the place where it's like we're just nearby. But if you have a child that's really explosive or shutting down or getting really frustrated, their tolerance is really low, you have to be closer so that you can see that coming, because they can't feel it. They don't know that they're getting frustrated until they flip the table over, and then they're just like, I don't know, I just got mad, and it feels like that to you as the parent as well. So you're going to need to be nearby. What we really want is our kids to kind of recognize that, but you may already kind of feel it. Like maybe this is your kid that follows you around the house. They can't find something to do, right? And they really also don't want to be alone with their thoughts or their expectations. Even when we have downtime, I encourage this in families. These kids sometimes they don't want to be in their room by themselves playing. They tend to kind of draw everybody into whatever's going on. You might hear them say, if they're regulated enough, they might say, can you sit by me? Will you watch me? Will you stay in the room? But kids that are not regulated, they're going to do that in a totally different way. They're going to do something that makes you have to move in closer. And a lot of times that's by exploding or breaking something or screaming or yelling. Sometimes it's by saying really mean things. And so we need to know that they're not trying to drive you crazy. They're actually trying to anchor themselves, but they don't know it and they don't know how. So this has to be taught. Otherwise, they don't learn it. And it can be really hard, because a lot of times as a parent, you may have similar stuff going on in your brain. And you're like, I don't want to be near this kid. Like, it drives me crazy, or it's making me dysregulated. So the challenge is that some of these kids also really struggle with emotional regulation. They struggle with flexibility. They struggle with boundaries. So they might want you close, but they might also be controlling in it. So it's like, you can sit here, but don't touch my things. My grandson will do this a lot, where he wants me to come play with him. But then as soon as I start to do anything, he's like, no, don't touch that. Don't do this, and so, it can be kind of hard, because they want you there, but they don't necessarily want you to do anything except for what they're telling you. And their need for connection can kind of turn into you being held hostage, or feel like you're living with a little dictator, so, and it's not healthy for them or for you. So what do we do, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you some strategies. So the first one is proximity with boundaries. This is really important. You're going to start using the language of proximity. So I'm going to be near you, not on top of you. I'm going to stay right here, and I'm going to be working on my things. And this is a no talking zone. You're going to play with the Play-Doh, and I'm going to be over here. And when you have something to show me, you have to wait until the timer goes off, and then you can show me. No talking. This is a no talking zone. So you have to kind of set out the expectations. We want them to get used to that somebody can be near them, but they don't always have to draw that person into what they're doing. For example, I'm going to be folding laundry right here while you are working on your homework, or you can read on the couch, and I'm going to be right here where you can see me. I'm going to be making dinner. I'm still right here. I like a lot of times kids to be even closer. So I'm going to be working on this and in the kitchen, and you can be here at the counter, or you can sit on the stool and you can read, and I can hear you reading. You can get your Legos and be playing with this while I'm working on this. So it builds trust and safety, because you're present, but you're also kind of modeling independence and space. And you really do have to model it. And you have to set the expectations of what that's going to be. And with some kids, it even means setting the expectation of like, you're going to stay right here, because they'll either like keep coming over, and moving towards you, and interrupting in their own way, even if they're not saying anything, but most of the time they're saying stuff. So second strategy is that you want to set clear time frames. So you want, they don't have a sense of time passing. These kids really struggle with that. If you say, I'm going to be here for a little while, they are going to panic when you leave. So you want to be clear. I'm going to stay with you for 10 minutes while you get started, and then I'm going to go start dinner. You do your worksheet while I sit by you, and when it's done, then we can go make lunch. So use timers, use visual aids, all of that is great. And you need to be close enough. The 3-foot rule is real. It's a real thing. That's the body doubling part. But even being line of sight can be really important. And also, since we're talking about boundaries, you want to teach them to transition away from needing you constantly. So transitioning away is, I'm going to sit with you now, but later you're going to be doing it on your own for 5 more minutes. So they know it's not forever. And that's the hardest thing, because they don't understand time. So it can feel like, the time went really fast when you were here, and now it's taking forever when you're not here. You're building a bridge to independence, not just yanking it out from underneath them. Now, if you have older kids, you may be like, oh, they don't want to be near me at all, but they still really need that. And so you're teaching them that they can do their thing and be close, because we have to also really watch with kids, especially those that have had like trauma or, that are really affected neurodivergently. They can kind of get lost when they're alone and on their own. And so some kids like really go inward with all of that. And so then they're shut down, and we want to teach them to be around everybody and be able to also be present. And so they have to be around to do that. They can't just be in their room and then we're yelling at them to come out. And then they're on their phones at the table. And so they're not really like connecting that. So we have to teach all of this stuff with kids that are differently wired, because they don't have the executive functioning skills to just pick it up as naturally as we would like. The third strategy is to use predictable routines. So the more consistent that the environment is, the less you have to constantly supervise. Although if you're having a lot of battles around the routines, just go do it with them. Just go do it, But in setting up the routines, you might say something like, okay, homework happens at the kitchen table right after snack. So it's like every day we do that at the same time. And then you're going to brush your teeth right after we read. Or actually, I like to do the non-preferred first. So it's like you're going to get ready for bed, you're going to brush your teeth, and then we're going to have our family reading time. And, you can also, like, as they get older, sometimes you can use a checklist. It's like the checklist is on the wall. Make sure you do these 3 things. Routines give their brain a default path so that they don't have to think so much. You're building kind of that mental automation to replace what executive. The 4th strategy is to know when to step back. If your child demands you to be present for everything or becomes aggressive when you try to leave, it's a red flag for emotional dependency. And it's not just ADHD, it's unhealthy. We don't want that. We want to be able to, everybody can kind of move and have their space, but we need to kind of look at that and what's happening. So you might need more coaching on some of that, like, and so that you can coach your child through it, that it's okay to feel nervous doing this alone. I believe in you. I'll come and check. You're not going to be alone forever. Remember, the timer's going to go off and then we're going to be back together. Take a deep breath before I go, because we don't want kids to just shut down because they panic, and then because their brain is telling them like there's some kind of danger when somebody is leaving. You're kind of helping them to tolerate discomfort, but you're not eliminating it. And I love when we talk about executive functioning skills in this way, because there's a lot of talk, I believe, in like that we're going to eliminate all the triggers and we're going to change the environment, and that this environment is not right for our kids. And I don't believe that. And that might be offensive to some people, but I think that we have to help people be able to tolerate discomfort and not just try to eliminate it. We need to be able to tolerate, like, this is really hard, or I'm getting really frustrated, but I know this is not, unusual or odd, it's just going to take me a minute here to get myself together so that I can help you to do this. So the final thought is, just keep in mind that this is a dance. It's not a formula. It's not a one size fits all. The things that I'm telling you here, there's some things to try and some different ways to do it. And with kids that are wired differently, there's always a dance between structure and flexibility. And we have to actually teach these kids to be flexible. They sometimes really like the structure, and some parents are afraid to have the structure because then they're afraid their kids will be too rigid. And that's part of the dance of teaching that. We have to teach closeness and freedom. And I like to call it interdependence is what we're teaching. We don't want them to be dependent on us for everything. We want them to be able to function at their highest ability, but at the same time, we don't want them to be so like detached, independent. And that's kind of what we see in our society. It's like they're not really independent because they can't really function, but they're definitely detached. And so it can feel like, I don't have to watch them because they'll just, play video games for 10 hours a day or whatever. And it's that's not really what we're talking about here. Your presence, I just want you to know that your presence is a gift, and it has so much power in it, like way more than you think. And I love working with parents and teaching them how to use their presence to even eliminate power struggles and to get more compliance with kids and all of that, because your presence is not a leash, and your child is not leashed to you. We don't teach the 3-foot rule by using leashes and things like that at all. We're not duct taping your kid to you. But it's so powerful when you realize how important your presence is. It's okay to say, I love being near you, but I need to do my things right now. And you can do hard things, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. And I love that we can teach the kids that we're a team, but I'm not your engine. You've got your own engine. And I love that, don't you? So as they grow, the balance kind of shifts. And so what you're doing now is kind of planting seeds of self-regulation, one moment at a time. And I just want to thank you for being the parent who shows up, because it's messy, right? Like when you think about this being a dance instead of being a formula, it's like, I'm not very good at dancing, right? So even if you're tired, even if your child's brain needs more scaffolding than most, thank you. Thank you for showing up for your kids. And you're going to be equipping them, and it's not enabling them. It's not going to be forever, but sometimes we have to take some steps back because of the toddler type brain stuff going on. And it's actually a good thing, because it means their brain is growing, and that these skills can be developed. Even if we have to take a step back and develop the skills, but these skills can be developed. And so it's one double at a time, one moment at a time sometimes. So, hey, if you want more help, especially about this kind of stuff and how this actually works or what it looks like for your family, I want you to go to parentingchallengingkids.com, and you have a couple of choices there. Look all the way through it. Look at the different coaching packages that are available to you. I have everything from a very, solid program that I've been using for over 12 years to help you if your child is aggressive, if, they're having major meltdowns and you can't do anything if your child's had trauma, all of that, all the way to coaching packages that involve group coaching in our playroom, and individual coaching packages that are smaller, that just help you to kind of know what to do next. Look at all of that. And then the other thing is, go to the Get Started page, sign up and get a free consultation, and we can talk it through. I will even help you with a problem that you're just like, okay, I want help, but I also need like immediate help for this one thing. Like, what do I do? Help. So do that. Go to parentingchallengingkids.com and look at what your options are, and don't be afraid to reach out for help. It's nice.